Welcome back to the graveyard, everybody. My name is Mads, and I realized whilst looking back at some of the content I've been creating lately that this year has started off on kind of a negative foot on my YouTube account. Now, I'm not going to apologize for that because sometimes shit just happens and you need to talk about it. And unfortunately, worldwide, this year started off in a very difficult fashion for a lot of people. It's not just people in the US, it's people all over who are really struggling lately. And well, I am always honest on my channel about what's going on in my life and what's going on in, the little side of the world that I am a part of. I don't want to just pump out negative content. So I was sitting here trying to think, okay, what kind of videos can I make that are quick and easy? Because a lot of the stuff like my brand deep dives and looking into the history of goth bands can take months to plan for. And I came up with something. It has a slightly negative side to it, but it's mostly just going to be a fun and kind of laid back video. I want to talk about the YouTube accounts that I have been subscribed to for the longest, why I've stuck by them, why I am like ride or die for these people unless they do something absolutely heinous that I cannot forgive or that completely violates my morals or something. And I want to talk about people that used to be someone I was ride or die for, what they did to make it so that I unsubscribed to them, but I still think about them sometimes because I want you to understand right off the bat, if I unsubscribe to somebody, it's not necessarily because they did something completely awful. Sometimes it's just that you don't have stuff in common with them anymore. So hopefully this is kind of a more chill and fun video. Hopefully it kind of inspires some people to do a similar style of video. I'd love to know like who you've been subbed to for the longest and why. What is it about them that, surely they change over time. So even though their content has changed or their channel style has changed, what made you keep coming back to that person's video? So, how sometimes people say, oh my God, don't look at my Spotify. It's an absolute mess of mayhem. Like none of the music remotely matches each other's genres or anything. It's just crazy. That's my YouTube subscriptions. Like it's not all goth content creators, not by a long shot. There is such a hodgepodge mix of styles of content creator. One of the channels I've been subbed to the longest is Plum Village. Plum Village, I first started following not just on YouTube, but on their website, on all of their social medias, years and years ago. I think when I was like fresh out of high school or something, because their website looked very, very different back then. And I followed them because I was going through a pretty severe mental health crisis at the time. When I was a teenager and a young adult, I was not a well person at all. And I was in therapy. But the problem was, I know my therapist was doing the best he could at the time, but he was unfortunately accidentally making matters much worse. So I was like, okay, I want to get well. I don't want to be mentally ill for the rest of my life. What can I do? Because this therapist is not helping me as much as he thinks he is. So I started looking into Buddhism. Plum Village is great because they make it very clear Buddhism doesn't necessarily have to be a religious movement. You can be any religion or no religion, total atheist, and still be Buddhist. It is a philosophy. It is a way of living your life in a way that helps you become a happier person. And at the time, this lovely gentleman was heading Plum Village. Ty was amazing. Even though he's since passed away, I still find myself going back and watching his old talks because there's something about his presence that just makes you feel so warm and invited and comforted whenever he's talking to somebody. Whenever he's answering someone's question, he never comes off judgmental. Even if he has to think for a minute, he will always find an answer to your question. And that was something I hadn't had before that. So many times while I was growing up, I would have a question and it's almost like I would get in trouble for asking it because a lot of it was religious stuff. And when you ask someone who's religious a question and there's no concrete answer to it, they get upset with you because you're challenging their faith, even though you don't mean to. So between just the way that Ty made me feel personally when I listened to him speak, and just the fact that Buddhism as a whole got me out of like the worst depression hole of my entire life, that is why I followed them. And I still follow them to this day because anytime I'm going through a bout of really high anxiety or I'm really stressed out, just something difficult is going down in my life, it still brings me that same level of comfort to just sit down and listen to some of the Dharma talks. Next is one that will probably surprise no one because I don't think it matters what corner of the internet you're normally a part of. Almost all of us follow this person at some point. Jenna Marbles. Jenna Marbles is actually the first person I ever subscribed to on YouTube. It was way, way back when she still was in Boston, living in a shitty little apartment with a roommate that she couldn't stand at the time. And I first subbed to her because her videos made me laugh. That was it. That's all it took. I was like, this girl is funny. She's cracking me up every time she uploads. I love it. I did go through a long time where I was still subbed to her, but I didn't really consume her content because she reached this weird point. This was still when she lived there. And she was in her early 20s. Like, we were all kind of like this at some point. If you try to say you weren't, you're a liar. Where she was a little over dramatic. She would get a little overly upset over really stupid shit and stuff that didn't matter. I remember one video where she was just going on and just ranting. When I get it. I get it. But it was so funny because it was like, why does this need to be on YouTube? It was called like, some bitch broke my cell phone or something, or some bitch broke my iPhone. And she was basically filming girls fighting in the street and got upset that one of them whacked the phone out of her hand and broke it. Which, you know, I don't know. It's so funny though, because it was like, why did this need to go on YouTube? Like this, what does this have to do with your subscribers or anybody else besides you? But what's hilarious is the size she was then versus now. Can you imagine if Jenna Marbles was still uploading today and someone broke her iPhone? Every T channel on the planet would have made a minimum of 10 videos about it, even though we never saw the girl. We had no idea who she was, but oh my God, they would have acted like someone like slapped her child or something. It would be so over the top. So when she was in that kind of melodramatic phase of her life, I stopped consuming her content. She was just kind of on the back burner. And then when she moved into the house where she had the red kitchen, that's when I started consuming her content again. But it was kind of a double-edged sword thing. I was in and out of watching her videos. I wasn't watching them consistently. I watched them when it was something funny, like when she would do like the, you're not allowed to, you know, what was it, blindfolded makeup challenge, something like that. You weren't allowed to see what you were doing. You had to try to do your full face of makeup with your eyes closed. That stuff was funny, but what concerned me was this is around the time she broke up with Max before she got with Julian. And understandably, she was kind of sad. They'd been together for a while. I believe they lived together. That's a huge deal. But then a lot of the drinking videos picked up steam, a lot of rant videos where she was just very negative and very angry in a lot of videos, which again, it makes sense given, again, how young she was and what she was going through at that stage in her life. But I was like, I don't really feel like just watching someone get drunk and rant all the time. And it was getting worrisome. But then she met Julian, and this is when I actually started consistently watching her uploads. Every week I watched after she met Julian because he was so good for her. He was making her so happy. He was a positive force. He didn't try to force himself into her videos. She would decide to do videos with him. And that's something I noticed that was different from a lot of content creators at the time who had partners. For a lot of them, if they were already a pretty large channel and suddenly they ended up in a serious romantic relationship with somebody, you could kind of tell when that person wasn't necessarily the best for the content creator in question, that they were clearly trying to like shoehorn their own kind of content into their content, or they were trying to like basically steal subs and hope to get just as big as that person. Julian was never like that. I followed Julian's account. He's another one that is one of my longest lasting ones. I followed his account about a year or so into their relationship. I think this was around when he was doing vlogs with like drones and stuff, which was really, really fun. And I loved the fact that he was proud of her for having more subs than him. He never expected to get to the heights that Jenna's at, and he doesn't care that he hasn't, or that he may never get to that point. And the stuff they did together wasn't annoying. It was fun. It was silly. It was just a good time, like listening to their podcasts they had together and stuff. I mean, just going back and listening to the podcast were so funny. And something I also loved about Julian's kind of wrapped in this now too. Jenna and Julian is they've always taken accountability when they fucked up. It didn't matter if it was just a teeny tiny thing or a really big thing. They're not afraid to apologize. And I think that's amazing because so many YouTubers act like they're allergic to apologizing. You make mistakes. You're a human being. I know cancel culture can be really scary, but it rarely works anyway. So just apologize, mean it, sincerely try to do better and move on with your life. That's really all you have to do. I mean, everything from like Jenna's goodbye, basically, and that being a huge apology to at one point on their podcast, they were reading Reddit's scary stories for Halloween. And someone just reached out and was like, hey, I saw that on your podcast, you read my story, and I just wanted you to know I'm working on getting that published right now. So could you please ask permission next time? All they did was they took down that podcast and they did a new one where they apologized and were like, we didn't even think about the fact that on Reddit, people may not necessarily want people reading their shit on YouTube. And this was a piece of fiction they were working on. So we apologize and we promise to reach out and ask next time. It's literally all it takes. So Jenna, even though she's not online anymore, I still follow her. I still find myself going back and watching her old videos that make me laugh whenever I need a little giggle and stuff, because I think she was just a very positive part of the internet for as long as she was a part of it. And that kind of gets absorbed into Julian. I do still follow Julian. I don't consume his content super often, but apart from just liking him as a person and thinking he was good for Jenna, the other reason I followed him initially and subscribed to his YouTube channel is he did something that normally is the death of a YouTube channel. But I love the way he did it. He has had a variety of different content over the years. Like I said, he kind of started with vlogs where he would do like daily life vlogs, or he would do travel vlogs and stuff. And it was really cool and really fun. Then as he started getting kind of bored of that, he would slowly morph it into cooking because he likes to cook. It's like, okay, I don't feel like traveling nonstop anymore, getting too over this shit. What can I do to keep my channel going? And it would be like, let's cook a dish that I learned while I was traveling. So it kind of made sense how it morphed into that. Then it was mostly cooking for a while, but I appreciate it because there was still a lot of humor in the cooking videos. It was still him being a goofball and stuff. And he has a lot of similar dietary restrictions that I do. And even though Jenna and Julian both obviously are like millionaires by this point in their careers, they were very mindful in their cooking videos about the fact that not everyone has an unlimited budget to spend on food, especially if you're celiac and vegan. So he would do his best to do relatively inexpensive meals for people who are celiac and vegan. And I really appreciated that. He was the first one I found that I wasn't like, I'll never be able to afford to cook that myself if I want to. What a shame. Next one might actually surprise a lot of people. It tends to kind of make people slow stare at me when I say it because I think it's the last content creator anyone ever expect me to follow. I first followed this person in 2011 or 2012. It's fucking Zoella. I did subscribe to Zoella. I had followed her for a very long time. I watched her videos until 2016, actually. So that's a very, very long time to consume someone's content regularly on YouTube. I would at least look at what each weekly upload was. I also followed her vlog channel, so I was following both channels. I liked the vlogs because I liked when she would show up with the Brit crew and do some little travel thing. It seemed like they had a lot of fun together. And the reason, even though we couldn't be more different people, the reason I first followed her and enjoyed her is she was the first content creator I ever saw on YouTube who made it seem like she was just someone sitting on her bed chatting with you at a sleepover or talking to you on FaceTime. It always felt very personal. It always felt very relaxed and chill and minimal effort, and like she actually cared about her subscriber base. And even though a lot of it was like shopping hauls and stuff, and I've always been poor, so there was no way I was going to be able to go out and buy this stuff. And I generally don't like hauls these days and stuff like that. What I liked was that even though a lot of shopping hauls on YouTube at the time were like name brand stuff, she tried to go, here's a name brand, now here's what I got at the drugstore. Here is something that if you only have like a $12 budget, you can afford. Here's something that if you are a student in school, you'll still be able to feel your best, but not pay more than 20 bucks for it. And I really appreciated that. I also just liked her personality. When you're going through a lot, like I said, I was pretty mentally ill at the time that I followed her too. It's nice to have this consistent weekly uploader that is going to be smiling and happy the whole time she's on the video. It just makes you feel smiley and happy in return. Now, unfortunately, I have since unsubscribed from Zoella and from her vlog channel, and I have not consumed her content since. I started drifting away when Alfie started showing up. He gives a lot of right-winger energy. I know a lot of people have accused him of being a Tory. If you're not from the UK, that's basically their right-wing politicians. It's similar to Republican. And he's just kind of an asshole. I didn't like the way that he talked to her. He's like the opposite of Julia, and he was so disrespectful to her all the time. He would do stuff, and he's one of those guys that's just like, it's a joke, but you'd be like, I wouldn't think that was funny though. I don't like this. The fact that he's had to do multiple different videos throughout his YouTubing career where instead of apologizing, he has to defend himself says something. Yes, you're always going to have trolls. You're always going to have haters if you are anyone online. It doesn't matter how small a presence you are. That comes with the territory. But if you consistently need to upload explanations as to why you've done something, you may not be the best person in the world. So this dude just made me uncomfortable, but I was like, well, she can date whoever she wants. She's an adult. But then he started more consistently showing up in her content. And every time he showed up in her videos, he was just a downer. I wanted nothing to do with this dude, so I just stopped watching him. And then she got pregnant, and this is going to be another theme in this video for people I have since unfollowed or stopped watching the content of. I have nothing in common with parents, nor do I want to have anything in common with parents. If you want to have a child, that's wonderful. I'm happy for you if you manage to make it happen, but I have no interest in that whatsoever. It's boring to me. It's odd to me. I just don't want to watch it. And then on top of that, it's very uncomfortable for me as an outsider looking in when someone's extremely young child, like baby, toddler, young kid, too young to be able to properly consent to being in a video, is all over your multi-million subscriber YouTube account. That is simply unsafe. Not only because of the creepers using AI to do disgusting things with children's videos online, because yes, that is happening. It's actively investigated on a daily basis now, but just, you don't know who's watching you and why. If you're putting your young kid on videos for millions and millions of people across the world to see, people are doing horrible things to those videos. And I just don't feel like it's right to put them in this position either. Even outside like the creeps of the world, it's your channel. You decided to be a YouTuber. You decided that you were going to revolve your life around this weekly upload schedule and these millions and millions of people who hang on your every upload. The child did not agree to that. The child just happened to be born. And I think you shouldn't be having your child show up in your videos until they're at least 16, because by 16, yes, they're not technically an adult, but they're old enough to understand the potential ramifications of an online presence of that size. And you can be like, would you like to be featured in a video today? Would you like me to introduce you to my subscribers? And let the child make that decision themselves. Because what's going to happen to babies like Zoella's baby is this kid is growing up with a famous mom. Like, even if you've never watched her stuff, you know the name Zoella, you know who that is. That's how huge she is online. And she's not going to be able to go to school. She's not going to be able to make friends without wondering if there's some kind of ulterior motive behind it, because everyone's just going to be like, it's Zoella's kid. It's Zoella's kid. And again, that kid did not agree to that just by being born. So those are reasons I have since stopped watching her content and unsubscribed. Next one is Wheels No Heels. That is a slightly smaller account, not tiny by any means of the imagination, but much smaller than the ones I've mentioned so far. And I followed her because she's a disability content creator. She is a woman with paralysis. She is in a wheelchair, and she does disability news, stuff that's positive and negative going around in the world when it comes to people with disabilities. She does content revolving around reacting to videos where maybe somebody meant well, but they kind of missed the mark when it came to how they dealt with someone with a disability. She does a lot of allyship videos, like if you want to be an ally to someone in a wheelchair, here's what you should do and here's what you should not do, because she understands, as well as most of us, sometimes people mean well, their heart's in the right place, but they're accidentally being really patronizing without realizing it. Stuff like when we say, no, we're really fine, and they try to force their way into helping us anyway. It's not as helpful as you think it is then. She also does travel videos for people in wheelchairs, and I love this because that is something that is sorely lacking on the internet. I want to see a full-blown vlog so I know whether or not I can exist in this place. She goes to like theme parks and stuff and shows you how accessible it is. One of my favorite ones she did was going to Disney World as a wheelchair user because she showed how she transferred on and off every single ride. And it gave me an idea on which rides I would be able to ride myself were I to ever go there. Same with a lot of like UK theme parks that she's been to. She's gone to LA, she's gone all over the place, and she just shows you how accessible these places are and whether or not you need to transfer for anything. And I love that. I do still consume her content pretty regularly because, hello, disability is kind of a huge part of my life and who I am. It's always going to be a part of my life and who I am, so it's something I always need to know more of. And again, she's a very positive, very upbeat and happy person. Even if you are not disabled and you're not interested necessarily in being like a full-blown disability ally, she's still a fun person to watch because she's just so positive and happy in most of her videos. Moving on to a slightly different style of content creator, this is a gamer. It's actually, I think, the only gaming YouTube channel I'm currently subbed to. I don't watch his stuff as regularly as I used to, but I still do watch it. It's Mad Morph. I started watching Mad Morph when he was a lot smaller than he currently is, so I'm very happy for him for reaching the heights that he has now. He deserves it. This guy is just a sweetheart. Like, he's very interactive when he goes live with the people who are following him. He's really nice. Like, he puts his foot down if he has to, but on the whole, he is very soft-spoken. He's very sweet. And something I really like about his Let's Plays, he lets himself feel what he's got to feel. This is a dude who will take a moment to cry on stream or in a video because a segment of that game was really fucking sad and it made him feel sad. And he's like, if you feel like you need to cry with me right now, it's okay. Do that. Don't feel like you have to hide your emotions. Never let anyone make you feel like it's wrong to feel something. It's okay. It just means you're human. It means you're kind. Like, the world needs more kind-hearted people and not just a bunch of hard asses, you know? And I really liked that. I liked how open he was about sharing his emotions, about the content he was consuming online, and encouraging other people to feel that way. He's extremely queer positive. He is disabled positive, an ally of basically every marginalized group you can possibly think of. He will try his best to find games that do have like minorities in them and stuff, and really shits on the huge, you know, subscribed channels that try to say like, oh, anti-woke gaming and something. He's just like, get over it. Like, people exist. Again, it's also very, very safe man content creator. I mean, he plays stuff like Hello Kitty Island Adventure and is like, I don't really care if dudes are like, you're a guy, you should be playing Call of Duty all day. He's like, I don't want to play Call of Duty. I want to play Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Leave me alone. So he's just a really chill, really cool person to watch. He also plays a variety of different games. Sometimes it'll be stuff that's really popping off at the moment, but he also plays really lesser known like indie games, and that really helps those developers get their foot through the door. Having somebody of that size play a game that maybe you wouldn't have even heard of without him playing it is great. We're at the home stretch, guys. There's only 2 more left. Next one is Lavender Town. Lavender Town is an artist on YouTube. I liked her because, again, sometimes I just want someone more soft-spoken and quiet and calm. Sometimes when you've had YouTube rolling in the background while you're doing chores or working or something and everyone's screaming, it's nice to have somebody a little more laid back. So I like the fact that she's very soft-spoken, very calm energy. And what I mainly follow her for, which is my favorite thing she does, is she will read a book. She will find a description of a character in a book and she will try to draw it, especially if that exists as other media. Like if it's, say it's Lord of the Rings, something that is both a book series and a movie series. And she'll be like, okay, let's look at what it says Frodo looks like in the book and try to draw it and see how close the movie got. And it's kind of cool because sometimes they're pretty damn close and sometimes they weren't even in the right ballpark, weren't even in the right state of the right ballpark. And it's so funny. And she does like character redesigns and stuff. So that kind of thing I just think is really fun. I love the artistic spin on, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what the novel said about this character. It was just kind of a different approach to that kind of thing. And I do still regularly consume her content because it's stayed pretty consistent and I think it's really fun. Another fun one that she does is during Halloween, she draws creepypastas while she reads them. And I think that one's really fun too. Now for the final person on the list. We're actually almost done now. This one is hilarious, and if you've never heard of this content creator before, I encourage you to go and follow them right now. You will not be disappointed. Her name's Navimpia, and she's a drag queen who impersonates YouTubers. And it is fucking hilarious. Within like 2 seconds of a video, you can tell exactly who she's impersonating. She's so good at it. It's fucking hilarious. The makeup is great. The mannerisms are immaculate. I crack up every time she uploads a video. I don't want to show too much in this video. I really encourage you to just go and look at one of them. They are amazing. And the great thing is, like, it's funny, but it's never hurtful. She's never punching down on a content creator. She's just taking what's already naturally funny about them and exaggerating it to greater heights. So definitely follow Navimpia if you haven't followed her already. She's absolutely amazing and hilarious, and you won't be disappointed. There's definitely a lot more people that I've been following for a long time or that I was following and have since kind of left behind for the most part, but I don't want this video to be like 2 hours long. Obviously, a lot of goth content creators either just have left the platform entirely, so they're just kind of dead channels in my subscriptions right now, or again, they've done things like had kids or something, so I just don't really interact with them as much. And we had like that whole 2016 goth YouTube thing where everyone was trying to rip each other down for some reason, which was just lovely, kids. I'm glad to see that it's calmed down significantly because a lot of people come to YouTube when they're first getting into the goth subculture to try to learn from people who have been in the subculture for a long time. And I hated that there was a period of time where it was a hostile place to be. It probably chased a lot of people away from the subculture. Ironically, the same people crying that it was dying were the ones chasing the people away and making them afraid to join. So I'm glad that's kind of over with. And hopefully this was a more kind of chill video, not as stressful for you to watch as some of my latest ones have been. It was definitely nice. It feels good for me to be able to sit here and do one that's just for fun for once. So I think I'll be doing more like this. But until next time, do something that makes you happy today, so long as you're harming nobody else in the process. Let me know which YouTuber you've been subscribed to the longest in the comments, and I'll see all of you in the next one.